model replicating people's 157 and 158, could you go to the next step?
May I sit down?
You may. Thank you, sir.
We know from the records that
This is not question and answer. He's not demonstrating.
I think you've got to ask a question first. So the objection is sustained. A partial comment is stricken disregard.
What do you
Mr.
have
Wallner.
in your hand, Dr. Shafer?
I have a 22-gauge intravenous catheter.
And was there a particular reason you obtained a 22-gauge intravenous catheter?
Yes, the record describes that as the type of catheter and the size of catheter that was used in Michael Jackson.
And please proceed with the setup.
So, this catheter has a metal needle to permit it to pass through the skin. Once it's passed through the skin, this is moved into the vein. And this needle, which has a protective little top on it, then is discarded. And this remains inside the vein. So I'm going to attach this catheter to the intravenous setup. I would ask you to envision that this is now inside a vein in Michael Jackson. And what you will see when I open this up is that with this catheter, fluid can move quite freely through it. And you see here in the drip chamber that you can actually give quite a bit of fluid rather quickly.
So now the saline is going through, all the way through the tubing, and obviously proceeds past the Y connector and would be going directly into the patient, in this case, Michael Jackson.
Correct.
And does that explain the entire setup?
This is the entire setup, because with this setup, one can administer drugs here.
And you're pointing to the Y port.
I'm pointing to the Y port that is about 3 feet away from the intravenous catheter site. And it's very convenient to pick this up and push drugs through here.
Now, what is a vented and non-vented system?
This is a non-vented system, and what that means is there's no way of introducing air into this bag using this spike. And it doesn't need to, because this bag will just shrink as the fluid is removed.
Now, is this the setup that, in your opinion, was used the night of Michael Jackson's death?
Yes.
Is that the complete setup?
For the purposes of just establishing intravenous access.
Okay,
Yes.
that's the complete setup for establishing intravenous access.
Yes.
Is that the complete setup for administering propofol?
By bolus injection or by infusion?
By-
Just need clarification.
By infusion.
No.
Okay. What would be the next step?
If you were to administer propofol by infusion, you then need an infusion, you need another one of these. But it must be vented. It must have a way of giving air, letting air pass into the bottle in order for the propofol to flow out of the bottle. Because otherwise, if you try doing that with this set, you'd just get a suction in the bottle. So you have to have a vented infusion set that permits air to go in to replace the propofol that comes out.
And were there any vented infusion sets that you found evidenced in the Seacoast medical records that had been ordered by Conrad Murray at any point in time?
Yes, there were.
And what was that?
That was a vented infusion set made by a company named Braun called the, now I have to look, I think it's called the safe pump or something like this.
Showing you what was earlier marked as People's 80 for identification. If you could take a look at that.
Yes. That is the vented infusion set manufactured by the Braun company. And there is, in fact, a vent on the top of it, which I'm happy to show.
And showing you, is this the identical set as People's 80, which for the record was previously testified by Sally Hirschberg?
Yes, this is the same infusion set.
Can you please open that up?
Yeah, I'm sorry, when you're saying the same infusion set, are you referring to an existing exhibit or a new exhibit?
He's opening a new sample. It's the same exact set that's contained in People's 80. But
Is that
People's
correct,
80
sir?
That is correct.
Thank you.
That is correct. And this is the infusion set that was purchased. This is the same as the infusion set that was purchased by Dr. Murray. And the vent is right here. When I open this up, air can go in that hole and go up into the propofol bottle, which permits the propofol to come out.
Now, the spike on the set that you're holding, which again is the same model as People's 80, the Safe Site IV set for Outlook Safety Infusion System. In the scenario that you've described, where the propofol continues to run into Michael Jackson via infusion,
Yes.
in that scenario with this IV system, how would the tubing and spike that you're holding be utilized?
This would be placed into a 100 ml bottle of propofol. This tubing would be filled with propofol. Note that this is intended to be used with an infusion pump. This little piece here is supposed to go into a Braun infusion pump. But there was no infusion pump. So this is tubing designed for use with an infusion pump, purchased the same as what was purchased by Conrad Murray, but there is no infusion pump that was being used. He was just using the infusion set that was intended to be used with an infusion pump without the pump.
And in this set, then, you described there would be spiked straight into a 100 milliliter bottle?
Correct.
And is that consistent with the spike you previously referenced in People's 30, the empty 100 milliliter bottle of propofol?
Correct. This is the type of spike that would have made that approximately 2 millimeter tear in the stopper that we saw yesterday.
And
Dr. Shafer, excuse me, if you could just position yourself a little closer to the IV so that you're kind of midway in terms of the jury box.
so
No, you can stand on the other side of it. I just meant a little closer to the jurors who are
Yes, sorry, yes.
at the other end. Thank you.
So the next step in setting up this infusion line would be what?
The next step in setting this infusion line would be to place the bottle of propofol, would be to spike the bottle of propofol, to actually take a bottle of propofol and attach it to this.
And can you please show us
Yes.
how that would have been done?
So, again, the part that doesn't take medical training. This is the bottle of propofol. And I've now spiked the bottle of propofol with this spike, which I can then hang.
And can you describe what you're doing right now to hang it?
There's a little label right here, little plastic label, little plastic strip, intended to hang this from an IV pole, like this.
And looking at People's 30, does this contain the same type decal apparatus used to hang it?
Yes, this has the same decal apparatus.
Can we approach?
Sure. Just a moment. Thank you. You want to confer on the side? Counsel are conferring. I was just thinking outside of that area. If you want to go in the back, that's fine too. Please come back though. Do any of you have to leave for a moment, ladies and gentlemen? I'm kind of encouraging. Really? Alternate number one, you'd like to take a moment? Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we do that? Let's just excuse you for a moment. I think your juror number one wants to go. Remember the admonishments. It's just going to take a few moments, and thank you, all right? We'll take a little break. You may, Dr. Shafer. Step down. In Dr. Murray's case, the defendant is present when his counsel is before. The people by their counsel is before. Dr. Shafer once again is on the witness stand. All jurors and alternates are present as before. Good afternoon again, and thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Walgan, it's my understanding that the parties have entered into a stipulation.
Yes, may I read it this time?
Yes, and ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Walgan is going to read the stipulation. That stipulation is also going to be provided to you in written form as People's 221. So this stipulation in writing is 221, and Mr. Walgan will read it a little slowly. Thank you.
Should I? For demonstrative purposes, the tab handle on People's 30 has been lifted from the bottle by the People's attorney. However, at the time People's 30 was recovered, the tab handle was intact, unused, and attached to the bottle.
Is that stipulated by the people, Mr. Walgan?
It is, Your Honor.
Thank you. By the defense, Mr. Chernoff?
It is.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that stipulation is accepted by the court. As I've explained to you, it's going to be provided to you in People's 221 in writing, and you must accept the facts in the stipulation as being proven in this case. They're not in dispute. Thank you. All right, Dr. Shafer, good afternoon again. Do you acknowledge, sir, you're still under oath and you're still sworn to tell the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. This is a resumption of direct examination by Mr. Walgan.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Dr. Shafer, before I have you continue with the setup of the IV administration set that you feel was utilized on June 25th, 2009, I want to ask you a question about specifically Dr. Murray's statement to the police in which he said he, I believe the exact words were, he slowly infused